Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to talk about building in Dominica. People are always asking me these questions. So many people, especially in the UK, America, friends of mine who are interested in relocating to the Caribbean. This is obviously specifically about Dominica, but in most cases, a lot of the Caribbean countries, the process would be quite similar. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how I got to the stage that I'm at now. The process is what I have to go through, and then what I plan to do moving forward. I'll also show you some of my plans and stuff, and some of my planning approval documents, things that you will need to familiarize yourself with, and just go through my plans as far as building my home. So I actually have plans here for 2 properties. It just so happens I originally was going to I bought a piece of land, I would say 10 years ago. 10 years ago, yeah, this year was 10 years. So it's over 10 years now. So that's one of the first things I would say is no time like the present. Buy something as soon as you can afford it. It might not necessarily be the ideal plot that you would like, but get something that you can afford. It's better to have something than nothing. I remember, I would say a good 20 years ago, I was in Dominica, probably even longer ago than that actually. It was one of my first trips back to Dominica after I had left school. So this was in, I would say, it was probably like early 2000s, might have been like 2001, 2002, so over 20 years ago. And I remember going to look at I had the idea to buy land at the time. I've always wanted to resettle back in Dominica. And I remember going to, I think it was somewhere in Mero, it might be like Cuba Road, somewhere around there, if anybody knows that. It was a beautiful view up there. It was a nice plot of land, and I just remember in my head, I feel like it was something like £7,000 at the time, or something like that. So probably like $20,000. Okay, it was at the time, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna buy this land, and I don't know, things got in the way. I was young as well. I bought a BMW. I was into cars. I had a Porsche. I was just young and dumb, spending my money on sort of those sort of things. And push forward today, I mean, I always regret, why didn't I buy a piece of land in Mero at the time? Because land up there, I saw some land going recently for, God, what was the figure? I can't remember. It was ridiculous money. It's probably at least 10 times that much for the price of it now. And the good thing about buying land is that you don't really have to do much maintenance on it, because it's sort of undeveloped. Obviously, if you buy a property or house or something, you've got to worry about maintenance. If you're not there, let's say you buy a house 20 years and you're not ready to live in it, you could rent it out, obviously, as an investment property, but then you've got to deal with maintaining it, repairing it, tenants, all that stuff. Whereas if you've got a piece of land, there's a lot less liability and less things can go wrong and less things to do. Obviously, once you've got your paperwork and everything, then you're good. You have the options, if you've got friends or family who can look after their land, sometimes you can let somebody plant on their land while you're there so that they kind of keep the foliage down and so on. So that's just the first thing I would say to people. Don't keep putting it off. If you can find something you can afford, try to get your hands on something. Try to get a piece of land in your name as soon as possible, because you might not be ready to build now. People feel like, oh well, I'll build when I retire or whatever. I remember my grandmother always telling me she bought her land literally as soon as she got to England. As soon as she got to England and she started working and earning obviously more money, pounds at the time, you were getting like one to five. £1 was like $5. So even though she worked sort of menial jobs, 2-3 jobs at a time, she was still in a much better position than a lot of Dominicans at home to purchase land. So she was able to buy a small plot, and I think she bought it, I remember her telling me something like £100 or something at the time. and it stayed there for 30 years. And when she was ready to, retire, and she started building it, etc., maybe so many years before she decided to leave England, and then her house was built. So if she had left it 30 years to then start trying to buy land, she probably wouldn't have been able to afford the land and to build the house at the same time. So that's my advice: get your land as soon as possible. So as I said, I've got one piece of land here which I bought 10 years ago. Now the plan at the time, it was never the ideal plot that I wanted, but I rather had been able to purchase something. So my plan was, what I want to do with this is to build a guest house on it in the future. When I settle down here, I want to build a guest house, because I'm in the building trade, if anybody doesn't know, and I like building properties and stuff. So I said I'll probably build a nice little guest house on it, sort of bungalow, chalet, something like that. And then later on down the line, I was just like, man, I just want to move to Dominica. Like, I'm gonna just build a house on there, a nice simple house, 2-bedroom house, and then move to Dominica. And as time goes by, I'll figure out, finding where I really want to live and so on. Push forward a couple of years, I ended up having 2 children, and now a 2-bedroom bungalow is not big enough, for 4 people. So I had to go back to the drawing board. So we were blessed to get an opportunity to acquire some more land, a bit bigger than the original plot was gifted, and we decided to basically build a family home on that plot. So I'll run you through a little bit of the process of buying land, because I've been through the buying land process. So just like most places, you can go to an estate agent. We have estate agents on the land. You have a very similar system. In the UK, it's not as common to have multiple agents selling one property. It does happen, but most of the time you'll find a property is listed by one agent. In America, you have a lot more sort of freelance people who are trying to sell the property, and whoever sells it first gets the commission, sort of thing. And we have a similar situation here as well. A lot of the times you find, not all the time, but some properties there's more than one agent. So there's smaller independent people as well that are out there trying to sell the properties and so on, and to get their commissions. So you look out there, look online. There's a lot of websites. Google them. Facebook, sometimes you'll find some of these agents listing properties for sale. Now, when you find a property or find somebody interested, obviously you'll contact them and you'll go and view the plot of land. So what you want to know is, what's the size of the plot? Because the size of the plot can determine the size of the property that you can build on it, okay? So if you bought 5,000 square feet, don't expect to build a 5,000 square foot house. I mean, that's massive, but because, you have to have certain things when it comes to planning. You've got to have a certain frontage from a road, i.e. there has to be a certain distance. The house has to be from the road edge. You have to have a boundary between you and the neighbors. There's a certain amount of space on the boundaries either side. It's a couple of feet either side. And then obviously you might want to have some rear garden space. And usually your septic tanks, which is what we use in Dominica. We don't have underground sewage systems. So most people will have a septic tank, which will be built into your garden, usually at the back of the house somewhere. So you need space for the septic tank as well. So that's where all the waste, toilets, showers, everything goes down, soak away into the ground. So you need to have enough land to be able to have the property, usually in the middle, have some space on the sides for the boundaries, space in the front and space at the back. So consider maybe first having an idea of what sort of house size you want, the footprint. Obviously you can go up. If you need more rooms, more space. So one of the properties, our main house is going to be 2 stories. So it'll be 4 bedrooms, but it will be split between the ground floor and the first floor. So therefore allowing more square footage over the same footprint, if that makes sense. So there's that. So you want to find out what sort of size property you're looking to build. And then once you find something, if you find something you like, 9 times out of 10, you can put in an offer below asking price. Because I'll be honest, the market is very slow in Dominica. There's a lot of properties and lands that are for sale for a very long time, some of them many years. So there's a lot of space for bargaining and so on. Obviously be reasonable with your bargaining, but there usually is space. And it doesn't hurt. All someone can say is no, or come back with a counter offer. So anyway, once you've come in with something that you've all agreed on to offer to sell, you need to contact a solicitor, because you'll need someone to do your conveyancing for you. Do not purchase without a solicitor. Make sure you do everything through the proper channels, because you want to make sure that who's selling that land owns that land. So that's the other thing. And then you want to have someone who has some sort of liability through this process on your behalf. So what you will have to do, a couple of things you'll have to do. You will have to get a survey done. Usually what will happen is the owner of the property will have a survey, which will, when they have if they've got the title documents, which they should have, the title to the land, the title will have a survey on it. And I'm going to show you guys something on screen. I don't have a physical copy here, but I can show you something on screen. So the title will basically say who owns the property, which should match up with the person selling it. And also it will have a sort of map, a drawing of the plot of land, the orientation as far as north, south, east and west, the boundaries, what properties are on the boundaries. So your neighbors, it will have the mention of the neighbors either side. That's important. And double check that stuff. So say for instance, you've got a picture of a plot of land and it says on the left hand side is Mr. Joseph, and on the right hand side is Miss Mabel, for instance. Have a look, knock round, speak to the neighbor, speak to them, hello, find out, is this Mr. Joseph? Because sometimes it might not be the right land that you're purchasing, or the land you think you're buying might not be the right land. So if you check and Mr. Joseph lives there and Mrs. Mabel lives on that side, then yeah, that's I'm on the correct piece of land here. So these things, might not seem really important, but they'll be important if you make a mistake. Last thing you want to do is buy a piece of land on paper and it's not the land that you thought you was going to buy. You know what I mean? So this is some advice as well to check out. So you have to do your own survey, okay? And your survey will be for a couple of things. One, to make sure that that person's is accurate. So you would enlist your own surveyor. I think you pay somewhere in the region of 500 EC, something around those lines, if I can remember off my head, for someone to do a survey, right? This is the basic survey. He will come round, he'll do his survey, everything, and he will produce a drawing basically almost identical to what the owner has on their title, and this will form part of the title when you purchase the property. So when you purchase property, they're going to use your surveyor's drawing, and that's going to be put together with your title, okay, as proof of what you own. And the land, you'll have the dimensions on it, how much square feet it is, and all that stuff. Also, what the survey will give you, which is important for purchasing, is a valuation of the property. Usually it will be calculated in the form of square feet. So it may say the surveyor values this property at $10 a square feet, $20 a square feet, whatever it is. And then a final figure will be calculated. So it will be surveyed as, this property is worth or valued at $50,000, $20,000, $100,000. Okay. Now that figure is important to be accurate because you will pay taxes on that figure, okay? That's the figure that you use to calculate the property taxes that you're going to pay. So there are a load of various taxes you're going to have to pay. Obviously you're going to have to pay solicitor fees and all this stuff. I can't tell you all those taxes and so forth. Again, I don't have them all here, but what I can give you is a general figure. Now, typically, expect to pay. There's two scenarios I'm going to give you. Expect to pay either 10% or 20% of the value of the property, and that will be added to the value when you're purchasing. So, for example, if you're buying a property that's agreed to purchase at $100,000, right? If you see 100,000, you need to budget for at least 110 or 120. You're going to pay another 10% or another 20%. Now, 10% will include all the various little taxes. There'll be this tax, there'll be VAT, there'll be this. There'll be solicitor's fee, and which will be a certain percent. And all these percentages should add up to 10%. So there may be a 4%, a 3%, a 2%, a 1%, etc., etc. And they will all add up to 10. So at the end of the day, when you're dealing with a solicitor and it gets to the point where you've got to now hand over the money, you'll be paying the money to the solicitor. Okay, you'd hand over 110,000 to the solicitor, and the solicitor will disperse that money to different authorities in the government, different taxes, etc. They will obviously take their cut out of that, and then the 100,000 will then get transferred to the other solicitor, which will then get transferred to the person that you're purchasing from. So now moving forward, 20%. In some cases, you will have to pay an additional 10%, and that is in the cases if you are not a citizen of the country. So there's something called an alien tax, which is basically an extra tax that's paid by foreigners. Now, if you are able to get a citizenship, through your family, etc., and you haven't yet done it, consider doing it first before you purchase land, because you will obviously save yourself that 10%, and there may be a net saving to you. So what it's going to cost you to get a citizenship is likely to be less than the tax that you're paying. So, it's not going to cost you $10,000 to get a citizenship. So let's say you're buying a property that's worth $100,000, you're going to be paying an extra $10,000, and it can add up if the prices are high. And the same goes for buying a property as well. If you're buying a house that's already built, it's going to be the same thing. You might buy a house for $400,000, it's going to be $40,000 it's going to cost you with that extra 10% alien tax. So it's something you want to consider, or something you need to know. So pay attention to that as well. So try and get that in order as soon as possible if you can. So that's basically it. So you essentially, whatever they see the value of the property, it comes out of the valuation. You're going to pay either 10 or 20%, depending on your circumstances, on top of that property value. So next, moving forward, is what do we do after we've got the land? Now you've got your land. Well done, congratulations. Now you want to build your dream house. So where do you go from there? Well, first thing you do, just like anywhere else, you need to get a property designed. So you need to enlist an architect. Now, in my opinion, I would advise someone to use an architect in Dominica rather than outside of the country, because number one, an architect outside the country may be able to give you an architectural design, but when it comes down to understanding the regulations as far as construction, so on here, the style of houses and roofs which are more suitable for the country, and just the general rules and laws of construction here, the architects here are going to know that, whereas ones outside won't. They will only know really how we build or design wherever they are. So what I could say to that is that if you have a concept, and you usually don't need to get an architect to give you a concept, you can go online, Google images, Pinterest. There's lots of websites that have property plans and visual plans. Go on some of the websites, agent websites that sell houses. You may like a particular style. Let's say you like the style of houses in Texas, or you like the styles of houses in Florida, or wherever. You may get some imagery to give to your architect. Say, look, this is kind of a style I like. Another thing that helps, which helped me with mine, was that I went on some websites, and I find, even though I'm in UK, I find the American property websites are a lot better. There's a lot more information. There's a lot of 3D videos. There's a lot more detailed plan layouts of the properties and stuff, whereas in the UK you don't get that a lot of the time. You might just get photos of the house. You don't often get full plan layout of all the floors with the measurements and everything. Now I found that a lot on a lot of the American websites out there. I can't remember the name of those sites, but the popular search engine sites. So I looked at various houses that I liked the look of, the style. I looked at their floor plans. I liked, you know, how the floor plans were designed, and found ones I liked and ones I didn't like, and created my own sort of thing out of that. Took a few ideas, sent those photos and layouts to my architect in Dominica. Gave him a rough guideline of what I was looking for, and he came up with a design, and it was very minor tweaking I had to do to be happy with it, how it wanted it, because I'd given him so much information. He had something to work with that was very clear and direct. So he will design the property for you. So now there's two different things. Depending on the size of the house and the requirements of the build, how difficult it is to build, you might just only need to get away with architect's drawings, and the architect may be able to deal with all the structural elements as far as the steelwork design, the roof design, columns, beams, stuff like that. In the case of the first property that we designed, which was fairly small, it was all be able to be done under the architect. Now the second property is a lot bigger, wider beams, more open plan spaces. So it was outside of the remit of the architect, or what the architect is essentially allowed to design. So we had to pay a structural engineer to look at his design and size some of the beams and steels and so on, and just basically check over it and so on, and come up with some calculations. So we had to pay additional fees to the building or the structural engineer to also come up with those detailed for the construction as well. So bearing that in mind, you might have to pay a bit extra and so on. Again, I'm trying to remember off my head, so sorry, what sort of fees I paid for the architect to get the drawings done, because obviously that's going to be another cost. So let me just see if I can give you some prices as well. Right, so I've gone and checked my invoice actually from my architect and looked at some of the prices so that I can give you some prices. So again, it can help you to budget and have an idea of what sort of prices it's going to cost you. So for our drawings, we paid $2, this is EC dollars, per square foot for drawings. So having a price per square foot helps you to budget. So if your house is 200 square feet, it's going to be $400. I'm not sure if there's a minimum charge. There may be a minimum fee. Right, so I just checked out my invoice for the most recent property, which was designed about 2 years after the first one. So prices may have changed since then. But the prices on, and this is the most recent, which was done in 2025, okay? Early of, I would say March, April 2025 is when these designs were done. Now, we were charged $2 EC dollars, not US, per square foot for our design. So you can translate that into whatever size of property you have in mind. So let's say you have a property of 1,000 square feet, then that would be 2,000 EC for your design. If you need the extra engineer to do some extra work for you on the details, we were charged 75 cents for the extra work that the engineer had to do. So that would be whatever, if it's 1,000 square feet, then it was another $750. So roughly, if you have 1,000 square foot house, you would pay about $2,000 for the architect, and if you need the extra engineering, probably about 75 cents. I mean, that's what we would charge. I don't know if that's the right
price, I did get a discount on top of the final price because it was sort of a friend who was doing it for me. So I did get a discount, but the discount was taken off the total balance. So just say $2,000, sorry, EC, or 2,750 if you need these extra engineering details. That's basically what it would cost you. So ours on the second, I can't remember the first one. I can't find the information, but on the most recent property, the house is quite big. It's about is over 4,000 square feet. I know that 4,000 something. So if you say $2 a square feet, you're already eight to 9,000, plus the extra engineering came to maybe another 3,000. I think we were about $12,000 for the drawings, which is in EC, 12,000 EC. That's approximately £3,500 approximately. As I said, we did get a little bit of a mates race, so we did get a bit of a discount off that. I think we ended up paying $10,000 flat out in the end for all our drawings and everything. Now, what that also includes, and which 99% of the time it will include, and just make sure, just have the conversation with your architect, what do I get for that money? What's also included in there, which was included in the prices, is to print the drawings, which I feel is like $500 or something, because they need to print it. I think they have to print 3 copies to submit to planning, and these are the 3, huge AO drawings. Okay, they have to take that somewhere to get printed, loads of detailed drawings. They'll print all that out. There's the fee for the application fee to the planning office. They have to pay that fee as well. I think there was a few other little bits as well. So everything was included in there. The architect will do the design for you. Once you're happy with it, he will also submit it for you. And then all after that, as long as nothing comes back, if something comes back, I know on the first one we had, there was an issue that came back with the design, and the architect had to deal with whatever concerns the planning had. He had to amend it, correct it, whatever, and then resend it back. So all that is included in the fee. And then basically all you need, or all you're waiting for after that, is for the approval from the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, okay? Physical Planning Division. That's what deals with this. Now, timelines. Now, this is the one where it could be anywhere. If you get the right architect who gets your drawings right the first time, who can push the work through, who hopefully knows people who works in the planning, because this is Dominica, it's all about who you know. You will either get through or it'll take a while. It just depends. And if you've got an architect that's just on job, he does what he needs to be done. To be honest, I've found from dealing with both of the properties that the planning were actually quite good. The first property, we waited quite a long time. I'd say it was probably at least 9 months it took, and that was me pushing things because a lot of things were not pushed like they should be. So there were times when I started to contact planning myself directly, and they would say to me, well, we sent this letter on, I don't know, this date, and we're still waiting for a response. Could have been 3-4 weeks later we had another response. So some of the delays was on my architect side. So really and truly that should have gone through a lot quicker. And also there was some issues that on the drawings that need to be corrected. So that took a while. Now I'm just looking here actually at my second document, which I have here. I'm looking at the date on the stamp, which I think is the date when it was approved. I can double check that when I check the letter, but this was approved on 28th of July, 2025. Now, I was in Dominica in March around the carnival time, and that's when I sat down with my architect and we got the designs going. And I think shortly after I left is when he submitted the application. So he might have submitted the application maybe around the end of March, I would say. Around the end of March, I'm guessing. And we got approved by July. So that's a decent turnaround, I think. But he's on job and he's pushed it through, and got everything done. You know, he got the drawings done really quickly as well. He's a very good worker. So, you know, I would definitely recommend him. I know him personally as well. So if anybody needs an architect, I can probably put you onto him as well. So just send me an email. My email actually is P for Papa Builders with an S at the end at hotmail.com. So I could send you his details in Dominica. He works for people that's out of the country. He can send your designs for you via WhatsApp or email or whatever. So yeah, I would highly recommend him for any architectural work. But yeah, basically that is a nutshell getting you up to the position that I'm at now, which is at approved planning. So now moving forward is building. So obviously when you get to planning, you need to find a builder who's going to build a house for you. So I am a builder, so I'll be taking on my own building projects. I will hire people on the island to work with me, but I will be overseeing the project because number one, I want things done the way I want it done. So I don't particularly trust anybody. I don't know anybody's level of skill, detail, ethics enough to leave in the hands of someone else. And obviously, because I'm building myself, I'm conscious of not wasting money, etc. So I'll be dealing with all that myself. I'll be doing it over multiple trips. When I make a trip, I'll be doing a phase, and then I'll probably pack up the job or lock up the job and go back to the UK, come back, carry on with the next phase. So that's the plan that I have as far as building. So the video is so long already. I think that I'll leave this video as a part one, which will basically be more of how do you get from nothing to ready to build. I think that's a good part one. And then I'm going to do another video shortly, where I will now go through, which was the original intent of this video, to go through the actual plans that I have and the details and drawings, and just go through the technical aspects of the drawing, because I haven't actually gone through this myself. So I need to familiarize myself with it, and also I think it will be an eye-opener for some people, and maybe interesting to see what the plans, approved plans, involves, and you know, what to expect as far as, and just the style of houses and how they're built and constructed and stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna wrap this one up here. So any questions, if it wasn't clear about anything, let me know in the comment section. Please like, comment, and subscribe as well. And look out for part 2, which I am going to do now, which will hopefully be about the length of this video as well. So guys, until the next video, I will see you soon, and thanks for watching.